Now we should be recording.
If you're trying to volunteer, you're muted.
Yeah, having a mini takeout would be really good. If you're already in the Etherpad.
I'll do it.
That was Brian?
That was Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, I will have an eye on the queue and the web chat, and I will also have an eye on the Jabber.
Okay, then I guess we can continue.
Yes. Yeah, so, and yeah, the last part of the agenda is this open mic session where you can, if you anything.
Would anyone like to bash the agenda now?
Magnus, are you muted?
I think he's frozen.
Maybe.
Okay, well, I'll take over while Magnus is talking. So probably the most obvious salient event for the area is we are changing over ADs. Mira has been at this for what, 2 years, 3 years, Mira?
4.
4 years, okay.
Yes.
Longer than I've been coming to TSVArea. And obviously has put a ton of energy and insight and knowledge and intelligence into everything she's done for this working group and has done, or area rather, and her working groups, and really across the IETF and the IESG. So Mira, thanks for all your contributions to the area. She's not going anywhere. She'll be on the review team, and I'm sure she's going to participate in a number of working groups for as long as for the foreseeable future. So thank you, Mira, for all your contributions.
Thank you very much. And as Magnus is not here, I can, thanks. As Magnus is not here, I can welcome Martin. It's great to have you. I'm happy to hand over to you because we've been working a lot together the last couple of weeks, and I think we will do great. I hope you have everything you need now, and it's yours. Welcome.
Well, it is mine on Wednesday, at least at the plenary. And you may think that's a bad headshot, but I have in fact in real life that blurry. Okay, moving on. We'll just continue in Magnus's absence for a little while here. Okay, so this is the very busy slide that kind of has a quick one-line summary of what's happening across the area. But I'd just like to call attention to the new people we have coming in. Ian Sweat, David Novak, and Lucas Pardue have taken over as working group chairs in various groups, as you can see there. And shortly, Spencer Shepler, Bill Cerveni, and Brian Trammell will be stepping down in their respective working group chair positions since they're now replacements for them. So I'd like to take a moment to thank our outgoing chairs for all their work in their various working groups and welcome our new people who I think we're all very excited to see Ian, David, and Lucas start contributing to their groups at a higher level. Otherwise, we've had 2 recharterings, and MPTSP is now closed. It closed earlier this week as a draft entered the RFC editor queue, the final draft. So TSPM has been very subtly recharted to handle future MPTSP issues, and then we've changed the QUIC charter as their work on the base drafts winds down. Their charter is now changed to cover sort of the next wave of extensions and so forth that have been cooking for a while now. Finally, in general, I am taking on Mira's working groups, and Magnus is just keeping his. As you might expect, the one difference is that partly because MPTSP is winding down, I'm going to go ahead and take TSVWG from Magnus to balance the load a little bit. Anyone have any comments or questions about this slide? Okay, we've had a pretty productive 4 months or so since.
There were a couple people on Java who had problems with a slow connection.
Yes.
Is that a general problem, or is it just a few people?
My Jabber is hopelessly slow as well. However, I see we have some people in the queue.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, David.
So Martin, welcome. And the other things listed here, encryption of transport headers is likely headed for IETF last call, not too distant future. This will be your opportunity for trial by fire. Enjoy.
Well, I've already gotten singed a little bit, so I've already got a taste.
Comment on the QUIC loss bits not being the last time this content is relevant was incredibly useful. Thank you.
Sure.
We have Colin on the queue. Colin?
Thanks. Just a quick correction. The RMCAT group still has one group, still has one document active. It's not quite gone dormant yet, although it wasn't planning on meeting.
Oh, I missed that. So, it's Martin's document.
Okay. To my to-do list. Thank you, Colin. All right. So we've been somewhat more productive in terms of RFCs published than in the previous interval. We had none between 105 and 106, and since 106, 7 things have gone to RFC, as you can see there. Also, 6 drafts have entered the RFC editor queue, and we have 7 that are sitting around in the RFC editor queue since before 106. A fair number of them are related to are blocked by a bunch of RTC web stuff. So some of them have been there for quite a while.
And actually, there are 4 more for me to send out between now and Wednesday. So a lot of work this time, or between the last meeting and now. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, review team update. So there are going to be a few changes as we come into IETF 107 here. Obviously, I'm stepping down from the review team after a very short tour as I'm becoming area director, and Mira has volunteered to come back to the review team as she steps on from being an AD. Furthermore, Martin Stimmerling, who was on the triage team for quite a while, is having to step down due to some other commitments. But we're always looking for more volunteers for this. It's kind of a factor of one of those things where just many hands make light work. You can see here that people do 1 or 2 draft reviews between each IETF meeting, so it's really not a particularly burdensome task. It's a good opportunity to see what else is going on in IETF, dipping your toes in some other areas. So if you're interested, please send email to TSVADs, and we can get you on the team. And thank you to everyone that's been providing reviews, both in the previous 4 months and for all the time you've been on the review team. Okay, that's the state of the area. We're going to try to use this meeting to familiarize people to the very unusual circumstances we have here for IETF 107 and call your attention to some of the things that are happening. Okay, here are some particular, so there's a very abbreviated schedule in IETF 107 week itself. The IESG decided to limit the agenda to solely BOSS and new working groups that don't have established ways of working, to give them sort of the maximum oxygen to get rolling, whereas other working groups will meet in subsequent weeks, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So there are no actual transport area groups or BOSS meeting in during IETF week. However, there are 4 things that you may find interesting. First of all, all these times are UTC, as the slide says. So Monday, well, sometime Monday, depending on where you are, there's the art dispatch session, and at the very end of that, if time allows, there will be a talk about SRT, which is a UDP-based session SIP-like protocol that is, I guess, already been deployed in South Korea. And there is some overlap with RIP-T, so that has gone to art. And I'll talk about RIP-T in a second, but there obviously, if it's straight over UDP, so as you might imagine, there are quite a few transporty elements to that proposal. So that may interest a lot of people here. Mira, was there something else in our dispatch that we wanted to call attention to?
No, this was definitely the main point.
Okay. Then the other 3 items, if you love QUIC as much as David Skenazy does, then there are 3 BOFs and or working groups in other areas that are probably seriously involved QUIC. There's MASC. RIPT is, as I already mentioned, is kind of a SIP-ish, follow-on SIP kind of effort that's not super well defined right now, frankly, but it is certainly looking at QUIC or HTTP3 as possible vehicles for what they're doing. So that might be another place where QUIC goes. And then web transport, I think most people here are aware of, but it's kind of a WebSockets over streams concept, essentially. Okay, so there are 7 working groups who are planning to do, who have tentative plans or in a couple cases firm plans to do an interim meeting over the next 30 days or so after IETF. TAPS has a regular rhythm of working group meetings, and those will continue. And ARM, CAT, and TRAM are going to sit this cycle out. I would encourage you to pay attention to the working group mailing lists, and also you can go to that link there on Data Tracker that tells you all the scheduled meetings across the IETF. Interim meetings are always there, but it'll be particularly active, of course, with the way the IETF 107 is structured. Okay, so I'm just going to run very briefly through the.
Stop. Aaron, you wanted to say something. I assume comment on TAPS, and maybe you can talk about your own slide here.
Okay. So I just I think that's saying that where TAPS will continue with its regularly scheduled meetings may be a little bit inaccurate, and I don't want to confuse anybody. That we had been going on roughly a monthly cadence for TAPS virtual interims, and our intention is to continue that. But the meetings aren't actually scheduled yet. So I don't want people to go and look for actual dates and times. We're trying to come up with a time for a meeting in April, and we haven't landed on that yet. So so just wanted to clarify that. And I think that addresses basically the the report here. A little bit of substance is that we did a thorough review of the TAPS architecture document. It's pretty much landed, but we're going to keep the document open while we do the interface specification and get implementation experience, and that gives us the opportunity to go back and revise it if it turns out that we learned stuff through that process. And I'd say right now we are in the final stages of deep review and revision of the interface specification. I'm a little bit behind on my reading, so I don't know exactly where we are yet, but I think that this is soon will be a good, we're going to do working group last call for the interface specification soon. And I think that's probably enough status for me, although there's so many working group members who are on the call. If anybody else wants to add to that, maybe they could jump in briefly. Guess not. Thank you.
So Alto actually already has scheduled its interim meeting for April 21st at 1400 UTC, if I'm remembering correctly. Is there anyone from Alto on this morning or afternoon? Okay. Is anyone on from QUIC?
Hello, hello.
Yes,
Okay,
we can hear you.
right. So we were talking about possibly scheduling some per issue virtual interims before Madrid. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any that are burning enough to require that. So I think we are at the moment content to work on GitHub and to a lesser degree by email. We had also before everything got shut down talked about that we might
Lars, are you planning to do a remote interop before Madrid?
Yeah, so I think we're going to do a remote interop whenever we get the next drafts out. I'll send a doodle poll, and we still have a bunch of stacks that aren't on 27 yet, so it doesn't seem super urgent. On the other hand, we don't want to hold anybody back who wants to move faster. So that is going to happen. So I think the interops are going to keep going forward, and they're going to be virtual for the foreseeable future, I think. And we can have them as frequently as people like.
Thank you, Lars. TSVM?
Yeah, we have a tentative schedule for working group last calls. As you see here, the REC one has already started. We are running it for 4 weeks since I wasn't sure what the right amount of time is, whether the IETF is considered to be happening or not. We will run them most likely one after the other. We would like to have a virtual interim meeting, not at the date which is currently planned, but more mid or end April. That would be more suitable to discuss potential outcome of the working group last calls and to progress the other documents. The ECN stuff is, well, can progress after things have been sorted out in TSVArea.
Yeah, as we are all here, I would like to request and remind people to actually look out for these last calls. This group could need more reviews and more feedback from everybody. So help would be appreciated, I think.
Yes, and we are asking for the Yang module if that is a working group item. So if you have an opinion on that, please tell us on the list.
People do. Thank you, Michael. TSVWG?
Oh, heaven help us. TSVWG is actually a tale of two working groups. Anybody who's watched the list has noticed that the whole, what do we do with the fourth ECN code point, L4S, SC, etc., can consume all of the time and effort invested in it. We think we need an interim meeting for that, but we are skeptical, chairs, that we can make any decision without a face-to-face meeting. So that one's going to Madrid. Then we need a second interim meeting to actually get something useful done. Try to cover everything else. Although as it says here, there's a lot of everything else in TSVWG. Things that will likely get punted out of interim meeting all the way to IETF 108 are the first bullet on ECN decisions. UDP options can be deferred while we try to get some other stuff done. There's a couple of NAT drafts that, in one case, SCTP NAT, I think is making progress. We need to finish that off. And the other one is the QUIC folks want to do some NAT and are looking for some exposure, or was that abuse in TSVWG? And there's a 3GPP-QCI acronym soup draft that really has to be carefully coordinated with 3GPP lest it go off the rails. We're going to kick that one to Madrid also.
Okay, thank you, David. IPPM?
Yeah, so I probably should have sent slides. We have a proposed agenda for this now. We're going to try and do a 90-minute virtual interim at 1500 UTC. That is sort of a fiat minimum time zone pain slot for the key contributors, like just looking at where they are. We have not yet confirmed that on the list, but that's our current plan.
Thank you, Brian.
So There's a question from Kyle in Jabber. What happens to the ETC1 decision if 108 doesn't happen? I'm not sure if David wants to say something, but I don't think we have a plan for this yet. So I think.
I think stay tuned. There are some interesting discussions among the chairs that will eventually loop in the ADs. We'll let you know what the sausage looks like after it's made, where the sausage is, how we're going to make the decision.
Okay, NFSV4.
Hey, Brian Pulowski here. Dave Novak can't make the call today. We got the interim agendas out. They were sent out by the IETF this morning before this meeting. And we basically moved our 2 days of meetings from the now rescheduled or moved meeting to the interim meetings. Took the agendas right across and they're published now. Nothing important.
Okay, thank you. Those are scheduled at 1700 UTC, I believe.
On the 22nd and 29th, yes.
22nd and 29th.
ETN, anyone on? Okay.
If not, I will step in. So the DTN is they likely going to have one. Sorry, they're going to have one interim meeting, but we're trying to figure out what to do with finishing up with the 3 core documents that's with ISG. So most likely the plan here is to take an interim meeting to just verify the changes, etc., before these get final approval, etc., and all those things happening, and then there might be an additional interim in the coming months to deal with the other newer stuff in the working group. That's my understanding of the situation.
Thanks, Magnus. All right, again, two groups are not meeting in this cycle. There is this link here has some more information, sort of IESG approved, on how to participate in our remote sessions in a productive way, and you've already gotten a preview of that in the way we're running this meeting. Okay, now it's time for open mic. What's on your minds?
So there is the question from Aaron in the Java chat if Colin could maybe also provide an update on anything transport related in the IRTF. So not sure if Colin is prepared for that, but
I would say I'm always prepared, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true. As far as I know, none of MapRG, PanRG, or ICCRG have yet scheduled a virtual meeting, although
yeah, I guess we have the chairs, so some of the chairs actually in this meeting. So for MapRG, we're still discussing if it makes sense or not, because like large part of the value is to have actually everybody in the room and have some discussion. But we probably have some people who would be able to present remotely, so it's not clear for MapRG yet.
So for PanRG, we basically decided before the announcement that the IETF was canceling that we were gonna, like, where we are in our agenda, we would basically roll this over to Madrid, and I think we're gonna stay with that decision. So like we would pick up and put together an interim if and once it becomes obvious that Madrid is also being rescheduled as an in-person meeting.
Yeah, I think Jana is in a similar place for ICCRG last I heard, although it's been a couple of weeks since I chatted with him. The IRTF open meeting, we can't on the basis that this was mostly the ANRP prize winning talks. And the goal is to get the prize winners involved in the meeting. So we were hoping we could just postpone them to a later meeting later this year. That is looking less and less likely. So I guess we'll probably be scheduling those talks at the Madrid meeting or the Bangkok meeting as virtual talks. We'll see what's happening there. ANRW, the call for papers is out. The deadline is what, April the 10th? Is that right, Maria?
Yes, that's true.
Yes, and we have a call for travel grants out. Although again, this obviously depends on whether this goes ahead in person.
Yeah, we didn't discuss any plans yet, but it's probably too early to actually do that. So things are running as planned for now.
The other thing which may interest this group is the computation in the network research group does have a virtual interim scheduled for the 7th of April. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Then I think we are officially in the open mic session. Yeah, so we were deciding to have this TSVArea meeting to at least give a short update before the next week also to everybody, and to like give us an opportunity to test this ourselves, this setup, but also to to kind of give everybody the possibility to test the setup with a meeting which is like less critical, I'd say. So also, if you have any questions about the next week or any interim meetings or how to run this virtually, we can take that as well. Or we can try to take it.
If you have any feedback on how this system works, we share it.
Aaron, are you queued in again? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that the interims that TAPS has been running online have been working very effectively. For one thing, that I think that you end up with better dialogue. Everybody's sort of like interacting at the same level, that we don't have a presenter and mics. And I'm not exactly sure what of the many differences from an IETF meeting. So I actually think this plus the encouragement possibly to have more interims may actually increase the throughput of the IETF. So, and I think that doing this session in advance of the week was a really good idea. Do you happen to know, are they going to use a different technology for the plenary sessions?
No, but we do have the opportunity to top up our WebEx account to get more participants in and more resources. Or what are you worried about? Bandwidth, or what's your worry?
I had a specific worry last night, and now I've forgotten what it is. So if I remember what it is, I'll send you a note. But
maybe we could let Alyssa answer this. I assume that's why she joined the queue. So Alyssa, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So we are going to use just a regular WebEx meeting for the plenary and see how it goes. We didn't have a lot of options on short notice, but it will be useful to get people's feedback, because something like a very large working group meeting or the plenary is not exactly what the regular WebEx meeting product is designed for. And there may be other options as we go forward with more virtual meetings in the future. So we're working on how we're going to get feedback from people, but even ad hoc feedback about the features available in this product would be useful.
I remember what my concern was, and that we use WebEx at Akamai, and I was told that there's a 500-person limit in meetings, and it wasn't clear whether that was a contractual limit or a technical limit, and so that made me think that there could be problems with the plenary.
Oh no, it's contractual.
Got it.
Yeah, we will be able to scale big enough for the plenary.
Also, I wanted to add a point about Aaron's earlier comment about TAPS interim meetings. So I think one of the reasons why those meetings work very well is because in TAPS we actually look at the issue tracker, we use GitHub, and we go like one by one, and we have a chat and these kind of things. So it's a very different dynamic than the physical meeting, which may or may not be good for your working group. But it's definitely something to consider, that if you actually want to use the interim to run it the same way as you would do the physical, or if you actually want to establish a different structure for it. like getting more experience in this area is probably also something good. And we have David on the queue.
I was going to comment that TSVWG held a WebEx interim meeting before all this excitement started. And I think the reflection as a chair is that it worked very well for information sharing. But as you saw in our summary, we are skeptical that it will work well as a forum for making a difficult decision.
Thank you, but it might be worth a try.
So
Aaron is
Spencer,
asking.
At this point, given the state of the L4S SCECT1 mess, the chairs are almost ready to try anything.
I can imagine. Aaron is asking on the Jabber, how do we do hums? Yeah. No, so we did notice that this is very difficult. So we did need to request the chairs to find different ways to get a sense of the room. Hums are just like one tool to get the sense of the room, but at the end you will anyway go back to the mailing list and confirm any decisions there or make the decision there. So you don't have the same tool as you have in a physical meeting. That's very obvious, but probably you can get some sense of the room anyway by people speaking up or giving comments in the chat or whatever. Yeah, Alyssa is adding that we are strongly recommending against audible hums because that probably doesn't help. It's really hard to get any guess from that.
so I think Spencer raised his hand, and since the queue is empty, Spencer, go ahead.
Yeah,
I think. Sorry. Yes, and then Alyssa's next.
I was just going to ask David if he could imagine a difficult question that was not ECT1 related, because I'm really having a hard time imagining that is a difficult question that is at the normal level of difficult that we would talk about at the IETF.
Well, Spencer, funny you should ask. I think I've just kicked the can down the tracks on some RFC 3168 revision questions, which is whether to reopen 3168 to go fix, of all things, ECN for fragmentation. That's not going to be easy to deal with either, considering that there's a doc in RFC's editor's queue that strongly discourages fragmentation.
So I saw that Martin is your area director now. Is that right?
Yes, we switched over to the working group.
On Wednesday, yes.
You're in my thoughts and prayers.
Well said by a Texan.
I'm going to earn every dollar they're paying me.
So I think Alyssa DQ'd again. So I think we're at the end of the queue we currently have.
Okay, last call for open mic. And if not, we can give some of you your weekend back. All right, well, I think we all hope that in whatever state of lockdown you are, that it's comfortable for you reasonably. And we will see you out on these interim meetings and then hopefully in Madrid.
Thank you all.
Nice work, guys.
Everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.